Okay. Matej, hi, Matej.
Hello.
There are zero visitors at the moment, so let's wait for a minute or two. I hope that there'll be some people joining. So
No.
before we start, how do you feel? Uh,
Uh, so we had similar session or practically the same session 3 weeks ago, but in our language, in Croatian or
yes.
Serbian. And now I also hope that we will have a possibility to provide some insights about the topic, and that people and visitors on today's session will be able to get something new, and they will have also possibility to implement this in their environment, or at least follow some best practices from there.
Right, absolutely. And the point of organizing this session in English is that as we are having a community which is growing, and that community is having more and more people, and some of them are not speaking our language, and that's why we are organizing English-speaking sessions. Okay, we are having visitors joining,
Mhm.
so. Good evening, everybody. We are having a meetup today with Matej Macek. This is a meetup organized by AWS Community Bosnia together with AWS Community Montenegro. As I said, Matej Macek is AWS solution architect, and he's gonna present us the presentation today. And I guess we should start. Uh, No, what do you think, Matej?
Yeah,
Should
yeah.
we
So
go? Yeah.
let's start with the presentation. So hello everyone. My name is Matej, solution architect at AWS team in the manufacturing team. So covering customers in manufacturing area. I'm based in Munich, originally coming from Croatia. I have been with AWS for 9 months now. And just to explain you more about my role, so what we as solution architects we are doing. So we are acting as a customer guide, navigating our customers through our services, sharing insights, and offering consultations to ensure they can architect and build solutions optimally. I started like a database administrator, but during my career, I experienced many challenges like team lead, but also technical lead, leading multiple teams. Coming from technical background, 10 years in IT, including 4 years dedicated to assisting various companies in migrating workloads to AWS. So from today's presentation, you should imagine that, for example, you have agility to scale your AWS infrastructure effortlessly, and everything. And on top of that, you have possibility to ensure your organization remains on the right side of complex compliance requirements. So we will dive into this today, and you will see how you can practically follow best practices and assure industry regulation are implemented inside your environment. Okay, so let's kick off with the presentation and start with the slides. So this what we can see today is that organizations are commonly looking for prescriptive guidance to ensure their workloads are following architectural best practices. And now more than ever, it's imperative that organizations have strong foundational architectures that are high performing, secure, reliable, cost efficient, and sustainable. So as we can see that in today's world, we have increased complex digital landscapes. Organizations are recognizing the need for robust foundations that will enable them to unlock the full potential of their computing environments. AWS is here to offer products, services and resources for organizations looking to adapt to organizational best practices, which means that this includes like AWS well-architected AWS solutions and the AWS Architecture Center, which features things like reference architectures and content on hot topics like how to architect sustainably. The point of all guidance is to help customers build a secure foundation that meets your control requirements so you host your highly regulated workloads. On this slide, you can see the list of common compliance requirements, and you can notice that some of them fall into the common strategies, such as incident response or networking or disaster recovery. So we can say that these are like basic things required in compliance scenarios, but generally they take some time and effort to work through and complete correctly to meet the compliance requirements. This is where a strong foundational structure comes in, and it uses infrastructure as code to ensure that all accounts in the environment can meet customers' compliance requirements. And during today's presentation and at the end of the presentation, you will see how practically this can be implemented and how you can implement this precisely. Here you can see also what AWS is offering to our customers and what AWS has in portfolio. So this is what we can see, that customers they need better visibility to integrate their cloud operations into their current workloads while maintaining high security standards and operational efficiency. And because of that, AWS is offering various services across the spectrum, and this includes like identity and access management, infrastructure protection, data protection, and also others. And the goal is to help our customers fulfill their requirements. Now we will see what is how our customers are practically starting with AWS journey. So usually we can see that customers are starting with one VPC and they use IAM roles to manage access to various applications. But when you have only a few workloads, which belongs to a few teams, this is of course manageable. But however, over the time, you are adding more and more applications. And as you have more workloads, which are belonging to more teams, it becomes harder to isolate your workloads. And then some questions start to arise, like how you can prevent access for orange team to see blue application, or for example, how you can allocate workloads to team or cost center. But beside that, customers are experiencing problem with IP address limitations. They're hitting API or service limits, or for them it's difficult to understand billing separation. As I already mentioned, when customers are dealing with only one account where they're placing all their workload, they're facing many challenges. As companies growing, and as products are exponentially growing, many teams would like to have separated workloads, and they would like to have isolation of their services. Beside that, they would like to have security controls. They would like to have compliance controls on specific workload. And they would also like to have separation of different business processes, which means that they would like to separate different stages. They would like to separate different type of workloads. And also for them, it's difficult to properly manage billing for their application. And this what we see. Our customers really expect to have isolation of their workloads, and they expect that they have some security boundaries, and also they would like to have their resources placed in like separated box. And they can achieve it. They can achieve this with isolated AWS account. As already mentioned during the previous slide, so whenever our customers are starting with one account, and when workload is growing, they're asking themselves how to build a secure foundation, how they can configure, manage AWS services together, and also how they can reduce management burden. So for this, we from AWS and collecting feedback from our customers, we are offering possibility that our customers start with the landing zone. So landing zone is AWS environment with multiple accounts, and these accounts are configured in a way to allow multiple people and teams across your organization to start with the use of AWS services in a secure and scalable manner. Landing zone is allowing you to experiment, to iterate and migrate workloads into without having to worry about scalability or security concerns as your cloud footprint grows. We can see here now, we will see now capability of landing zone. So what exactly landing zone is bringing to us? We can see there, we are bringing with landing zone possibility and help with the managing of the codes by separating billing for different teams or projects. There is also possibility for different teams to ensure that their resources are not related with each other. Also, you have possibility to allow quick adoption of the AWS environment for changing needs. And also this what is important when you have security regulated environment. It's possible with landing zone to control user access and permission efficiently. At the end, it's important to mention here that landing zone is providing you possibility to implement automated security checks and also monitor for resource protection. In the follow, so now when we are aware about what exactly is landing zone and how landing zone can help to customers to deal with the challenges when they have everything in the one account. Now we will see what AWS services are here to help you to really implement a landing zone. One of the most important services there is definitely AWS organization. So with this service, it's possible to separate workloads. It's possible to also place different accounts in different organizational units. You have possibility to apply different security control, service control policies on them, and this is just helping you to additionally protect overall environment and to fulfill industry requirements. It's also important to mention that AWS organization is offering possibility that you integrate other AWS services, and from the central point of view, you have possibility to have in your environment services like guard duty, firewall manager, backup, or IAM identity center. I mentioned that with AWS organization, you have possibility to control and place different policies with organizational units. So let's say, so this is example, and let's say that left organizational unit, in left organizational unit, you will place accounts which belongs to test stage, which means that you will have their accounts which belongs to test environment, and on the right side you have accounts, and this is organization unit dedicated just for production accounts and production workload. Like this, you will have possibility to place different controls to different organizational units. So, for example, to organizational unit where you have test environment and test workload, you have possibility to limit users that they create EC2 instances which are larger, EC2 instance types which are larger than X large, for example, which will save you some money and prevent that anyone is creating something which is not necessary for test environment. This is of course just example. And on production, to better control your environment, you have possibility to create policy which will block RDS instance to be created publicly available, which means like this you will be able to follow best practices. Another service on top of AWS organization, which is important in building of landing zone, is AWS Control Tower. So practically AWS Control Tower is the service who is creating your landing zone, and with this you have possibility to follow best practices, and this service is giving us and providing us possibility to place governance control with different guardrails. So Control Tower is practically collecting logs from AWS accounts in your environment, but also reuse different rules which are available in AWS config, and they are then placed. These controls are placed to all accounts in your environment. Beside that, AWS Control Tower is offering different features, and one of them is possibility that you deny regions, and also that you prevent creation of resources in undesired regions, but also is possible to control data residency, which is important for any institution that should follow different regulations, like, for example, GDPR, or where data must stay in European Union. So this is, for example, applicable for companies in financial sector, and there you have a strict requirement that data stay just in your country, and with Control Tower and with features of Control Tower, you have possibility to assure that in your environment you are developing resources just in specific region. Control Tower, as I mentioned, Control Tower is assuring that you follow best practices, placing controls to your accounts or to your organizational units. There are 3 different types of controls: preventive, detective, and proactive, but I will here mention only 2 of them. So preventive controls are designed to prevent specific activities or access to specific resources, which means that they need to be always compliant. There is no possibility that you do not have them in compliant state. And on another hand, you have detective controls, which are focused on detecting unwanted events or violation after they have already occurred. And there you have possibility to see compliant and non-compliant state. For example, if you want to have, like I mentioned, RDS instances which are not created publicly, you have possibility to see their status, and you have possibility to see where they are created as expected, and where you have and also you have possibility to see where they are not created as expected. Here you can see example of controls that are possible to be created and implemented by Control Tower. So, like example, you have possibility to enforce MFA, multi-factor authentication, to be applied for your root user, which, by the way, will be from the next year, from the mid of next year. By default, enforce control. There is also possibility that you enforce from the centralized point with Control Tower controls, possibility that all S3 buckets in your environment are created with versioning enabled. Of course, there are also other examples, but I will mention here only 2. Another thing which is important for us, beside AWS organization and Control Tower, when we are dealing with landing zone, is how exactly we will manage identities. Identities, of course, are important, and we would like to have possibility to secure them properly, and have possibility to centralize this. For this, we have IAM Identity Center, which is enabling us exactly this. Here on this example, you can see how users, here is mentioned how administrator of the system is accessing to accounts when in the environment is not implemented landing zone and when they are not using IAM Identity Center. So administrator user is using root user to connect to other accounts, and action like this should be prohibited and should not be allowed to be used in production. I mean, in any account. Root user should be really used just in some specific cases and should be adequately protected. When you have IAM Identity Center, then you are accessing to your accounts to centralized portal, and like this you have also possibility to access to your accounts with admin access, but also with access which is necessary for other users to have to specific account. So what exactly is IAM Identity Center, and why? What exactly IAM Identity Center is offering to our customers? With IAM Identity Center, you have possibility to bring your Active Directory, integrate with your Active Directory with IAM Identity Center, or you can create new Active Directory using AWS service. Beside that, you have possibility to integrate with external identity providers, and like this, you will have a centralized place of your all identities, and you will have possibility to manage them from the center place, and like this you will be able to access to multiple accounts in your environment, and also assign these to different applications. Now I will provide you example how IAM Identity Center is working and how users are using IAM Identity Center. So imagine now that you have a few users in your environment, and they should be part of some groups. You should always place users to groups to follow best practices, and then these groups will have access to specific accounts. After you have assigned groups to specific accounts, you're assigning their permission sets, and permission sets are giving you possibility that you attach specific policies or permission to your groups, and like this users will have specific rights when they are accessing to specific accounts, which means that if you are admin and if you would like to use admin access, then you will be able to see everything in the account. But if you have some developers which are working I don't know, with EC2, let's say, just like example, with EC2 instances, or just with RDS instances, or like you have database administrator, then you will be able to grant the access just for RDS instances, and then database administrator will be able to see in this specific account just RDS instances, and they will be able to manipulate and play just with them. Also, there is possibility that you, for example, give them read-only access if this is necessary in your environment. But also, this is not the only case. There is possibility to do to limit whatever is necessary per your company policies. Okay. So now that we have seen the basic services that help us define the landing zone, let us explore what we need to establish an environment that is ready and compliant with various industry standards. So I need to mention that since compliance is a complex and robust topic, we will only cover today a small portion of the possible implementation, but I think that this will give you an idea of how to get started there. So whenever you are dealing with multiple AWS accounts, it's crucial to establish various standards. And I will call them now on my way. This is not available in official documentation, but one of the most important standards are documentation and orchestration. So let me explain both of these standards. So with documentation, you have possibility to set standards such as inventory management, backup strategy, patching strategy for different systems, like for Linux or different databases. You have possibility to define disaster recovery strategy and more. And like this, your internal customers will be able to have clear understanding of what to expect from your services. And on top of that, documentation will be valuable for you while you are onboarding, for example, new members, but also, which is most important when you are dealing with regulated with company which is industry regulated, you will have various assessments and documentation will be ready for you, and you will be able to fast provide this to your auditors. Another thing which I mentioned, another standard which I mentioned, is orchestration, and this is something which is really core process that enables faster and consistent resource management. Which means that with this you have possibility to apply appropriate tags, policies, and standard to resources. And like this, you have possibility to generate different reports. You have possibility to automatically onboard resources to backup strategy, send metrics to monitoring systems, and you are able to ensure that the expected configuration is always in place. For any company, it's crucial to maintain compliance, and AWS is here to provide various services to help achieve this. Now I will show you one of the most important services where you will be able to see example how exactly AWS is helping with it. So as data backup is crucial for every company, especially for those that need to comply with various regulations. I will go now through this example, and I will show you how AWS service or AWS backup is helping you to achieve this with the use of managed services. So AWS backup is when you have environment with multiple accounts, it's possible to integrate with AWS organization. And like this, you're allowing to scale the service and apply policies to accounts in your environment, which means that you have central place, and then from there you are able to control backup in all accounts in your environment. You are doing this in administrator account, and there you are defining different backup plans, and you are attaching them to specific organizational unit. This means that what I meant with different backup plans, for example, for test stage, you would like to have retention, backup retention like 7 days, but for production, you would like to have, 1 year retention. And with defining different backup plans and attaching them to different organizational unit, you can achieve this from the central place. There is also possibility that you enable encryption, and also in case you need to be ready for disaster recovery, you should enable cross-region replication. And everything which I mentioned will be automatically done for you. Of course, you need to in advance to prepare everything, but after that, you will have this managed by AWS service. In this example, which I'm providing to you, if you want to include some resource in the strategy, you should use a specific tag that triggers this corresponding backup plan based what you defined previously. To give you some example, in case you have RDS instance or EC2 instance that should be part of the strategy, you should assign there the respective tag, and after that, AWS backup will automatically detect this, and it will include to the strategy, and respective retention period will be applied there, which means that following this approach can be really highly beneficial during various assessments. This is also, for example, like documentation. And when you have environment like this, there is no longer that you need to spend countless hours managing your backup strategy. Logs are easily accessible, your services backups are centralized, and the service allows you to focus more on operational tasks and optimizing your overall architecture. Just to provide you some example from my previous experience, when I was so I worked like system administrator responsible for the complete PCI DSS system, and for us was required that we every day store our backup to tapes. We had backup library for this. To really start with this, we needed to create backup, to configure backup library, configure tapes, plans, and so on. And then every day, during the day, we needed to replace these tapes. We moved them from the backup libraries, and then we needed to also write the documentation about it, and we also needed to store them in a bank. And like this every day, repeatedly every day. And now with AWS backup, there is no need that you do that anymore, because everything is done for you automatically. And also, which is important to mention, when I had in on-prem world assessments with auditors, I spent like at least 3 weeks to prepare documentation and to have ready logs for our auditors. And now with AWS backup, there is no need that I have this, that I'm struggling with this. I just need to extract logs. Documentation is already ready, and I just need to provide them possibility that they access to AWS backup if needed, and I'm ready with the assessment. Okay, so now that we have seen one example of how to balance an environment with multiple accounts, it's important to demonstrate how this balancing can be achieved for the entire environment you are responsible for. So the simple answer is the automation of the entire environment. So we can call this orchestration. To accomplish this, it's important that access to AWS Management Console should be restricted only through IAM Identity Center, where the maximum permission granted to customers is read-only. Like this, you will assure that resource management becomes controlled. So like this also, each specific AWS account will have configured baseline, and you can for this follow CSI hardening and also AWS best practices, which will give you a good starting point. So like this, you have possibility that your configuration with this baseline is fully automated, and whenever you are creating new account, you will use this as initial account setup, and all accounts will share the same base configuration. This means that, for example, if you would like to have backup vault in your new accounts, you will be able to connect with the predefined backup policies. You will be able to change the default setting of EBS encryption to be always enforced. You will be able, for example, to create various CloudWatch alarms in advance, or you will be able to implement VPC flow logs that later you will be able to centralize them and help network team to troubleshoot during the some problem. Also, as visible on the picture, is important that each AWS account should have a corresponding Git repository. So Git repositories which are involved in the process also must follow defined standards, and this includes a webhook to trigger a pipeline, and you should have there like a protected branch with approval requirements and a restricted group responsible for merging pull requests. So all resources created in AWS account should really follow this process, because if you are not following this process, you can have a mess. So it's important to mention that this is really crucial because like this you are enabling compliance with defined naming conventions and tech policies, and you are allowing everyone to provision resources according to set standards. And this process will allow you for additional, so if you have this implemented in your environment, this process is also capable to allow you to have analysis of created resources, and also you have possibility to calculate the cost, and also like this you can prevent unnecessary security vulnerabilities and unwanted expenses. So the goal of this solution is to provide the ability to create their own modules while still following established standards. Here I mentioned in case some companies should have a ticket system for any particular change, and they would like to see this in their environment. They have also a possibility that they integrate their ticketing system and create a ticket automatically through the process. Or even better, if ticketing system is capable to do that, they are able to fully automate some requests, like creation of CNAME and placing them to respective Route 53 hosted zone. And after this process finish, then you are starting deployment, and your resources will be provisioned in respective account. And at the end of the process, of course, for you is important that you monitor your environment and that you prevent problems before they arise. I know that this sounds a little bit complicated, and because of that, now I will provide you example, just that you have possibility to think about it and that you understand what is the goal to be achieved there. So to address this properly, let's imagine that we are engineers. So this engineer can be, this doesn't mean that this engineer should be cloud engineer or SRE engineer. It can be data engineer, database engineer, network engineer, any engineer who would like to have any resource modified or created inside AWS environment. And imagine that you are this engineer and you would like to have their EC2 instance, and you would like to also create some additional resources with it. As I mentioned, each AWS account should have corresponding GitHub repository, and then you will choose corresponding Git repository, and you will be able to create their feature branch. After you are working with this feature branch with infrastructure as code, and after you prepare the code, engineer will be able to open pull request to protected branch, and like this, webhook will trigger the pipeline. After that, engineer will be able to see like the output, what exactly will happen with this request. So this means that he will be able to see output of security scanner, which means that he will be able to see if he created security groups which is allowing traffic to everywhere, EC2 instances which are located, for example, in public subnet, SNS without encryption, KMS key without rotation. And if you don't want to allow this in your company, you are able to block such a request. And then if you are blocking such a request, engineer will need to repair this change. And after engineer repair this change, he will be able to move forward and request the merge. And also in the output, engineer will be able to see what will be the cost of this change. And after he requests the merge, responsible members will receive notifications via email or some communication channel, and then responsible member will be able to approve this, and deployment will start. In case you don't want to have manual approval, for example, this should be valid for PCI DSS environment, but in case you would like to have automated approval, you have also possibility to create this. And in case you don't have any suspected activities or detected vulnerabilities, then you can automatically approve the change, and the process pipeline can automatically start and implement desired resources for the engineer. Like this, you have additional cloud engineers in your company, which are helping you to achieve the goals, and also they are able to create their environment without practically contacting you, and they can be responsible for their part of code. But of course, in case they are not aware about infrastructure as code, you are here to guide them and onboard them to the process. Now, this what you see here, this is example of potential solution architect. So the architecture, and you can see that here I mentioned AWS services. So you have possibility to achieve with cloud pipeline, where you are using code commit and code build, and when you also able to use some third-party plugins if necessary. You are storing your artifacts to S3 bucket, and for approval you use help of SQS in combination with Lambda and SNS. Okay, so now that's it from the presentation, but at the end I would like to say that I prepared some materials for you, which I hope that will help you to get started with the landing zone, and which also will be able to help you to follow best practices in the landing zone. You can scan the QR code, or you have possibility also to Google the words which are mentioned here. Okay, so that's it. I would like also now at the end of presentation, because before we start with the question, I would like to ask you to provide the feedback. So the feedback is you need 30 seconds to finish with this. Feedback is important for us because it will give us possibility that we improve our presentation, that we improve our services, and we like to receive and listen feedback from our customers. So now we can start with the questions, and I hope that I will be also able to answer to your questions.
Is there any questions? Okay, there is one.
So this depends. So is it necessary for startup project or only for enterprises? So this what I mentioned here and this what I presented here depends on the workload you have. If you are starting with startup project which you don't need to follow any regulations, then of course you will not create such restrictive environment. But if you start with the project where you are preparing something for some company which will need to follow some industry regulations, then it's advisable that you start with something similar.
Okay. My addition to that question, do you pay anything when you have, let's say, such a strict environment? Do those services incur some additional cost? And do you know approximately how will that be? How much will that cost, let's say, a startup company that is willing to, let's say, have some rule to be bulletproof for future?
Yeah, okay. So the limitation will not cost you anything, because you will limit this with IAM Identity Center, which is free of charge, and also you are doing this with service control policies, other organizational units, and so on, which are also free of charge. This can only bring you the benefits, because like this you are preventing other members in your company that they create, for example, Bitcoin farm, and that you are not aware of it, or that they create some instances which they are not using. Or for example, when you have some security incident, you are able to immediately detect which team is responsible and part of which application is this resource, which means that there is no additional cost. This just can prevent additional cost for you. And cost for landing zone, there is some cost for landing zone, but this is the cost related with logs you are creating there and with resources you are enabling there, like AWS config and AWS CloudTrail, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if there is more questions. I have copied. I couldn't paste this survey into the chat.
I will do this.
Yeah, I copied. Hopefully it works. I mean, I copied. I literally copied letter by letter.
Okay.
Okay, one more question from Uroš. Is it difficult to switch to an organization if you didn't have one at the beginning and the project is already quite developed? Okay, this is a great question.
Yeah. So it depends, of course, what services you have implemented, but landing zone should not affect your productive workload. Which means that in case you want to implement landing zone, you are just creating another security layer on top of your already existing environment. So this will not affect your services, your products you created, but will, for example, limit you how you are accessing there, which means that you will not able anymore to use root user to access directly to accounts, but you will have your own user and complete environment will follow some security best practices, but it will not affect your solution you already have created in your environment. So for example, in my previous company, we had multiple accounts and we didn't have from the beginning landing zone. And after we are already implemented many applications there and products, we were able to enable landing zone there without any problem, just adding on top of everything additional security for our environment.
Okay, great.
Yep.
One more thing from me. Let's say first some clarity. Basically, landing zone is a concept, and control tower is a service that is provided by AWS that implements the landing zone as a concept.
Correct.
Yeah. So there are different types of landing zones. There are, let's say, some other vendors are implementing landing zones. However, only control tower is integrated with identity center directly and can be implemented basically, let's say, in automated way. However, is control tower right now, are you able to let's say, enforce cloud formation, control tower over cloud formation? Can you implement that as an infrastructure as a code?
You can, but maybe you will not be able to create everything you would like to have there. Especially this, what I mentioned here, is not possible everything to create with the code. But most of this, what I mentioned, which is related with AWS services, is possible to create, especially with CloudFormation.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, documentation is not possible to be created. But there is possibility that you create CloudFormation, but it's easier, I mean, at the end, because when you are starting with landing zone, you are usually creating this through the console because you are specifying some stuff there, and it's easier to be created like this. And then on top of that, after that, you are building automation on all other accounts.
Okay. As I remember previously, control tower wasn't able to establish the multi-regional governments, or it wasn't recommended. Is that the case still?
you have possibility to establish multi-regions controls, but you always have one home region, and then on top of that you can add multiple regions. And it's advisable really that if you have additional regions, that you define them in regions where you will really run some workloads.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to thank you, all of you. Thank you for being here. I hope that you had possibility to learn something new and that you will be able to follow this in your company. In case you have some additional question, you are free to ask me. I also provided here my contacts. You can find me also LinkedIn, and I'm willing to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Matej. It was a great presentation. I think we had like a few viewers in one moment.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it was great presentation, and I believe we learned a lot. So thank you very much, and see you in some of the next sessions.
Yeah, thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.